Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Run It Back, episode number 29. I'm your host, Menelik Fernandez. So this episode is being recorded on Tuesday, the 22nd, but will actually be released on Christmas Day. So happy holidays and Merry Christmas to your families when you're actually tuning in and watching this. And today we're doing a bit of a special edition. So the premise of Run It Back typically is we take teams that have played before and we run the game back, so to speak. So we, go through what worked, what didn't work, etc. But on today's episode, for the holidays and just feeling very fortunate, we're actually going to do a special edition with an NBA scout, Lamar Barrett. Lamar has sort of taken me under his wing in the past couple of months and really shown me the ropes of both the college and the NBA industry, something that I'm very not only fortunate but happy of. So, Lamar, hopefully I can do you some justice with this introduction. But I mean, as a gentleman, this gentleman has 20 plus years of coaching experience. Started at Oxon Hill High School, went to Central Connecticut State, was there for a couple of years, was a director at Hoop Group for a few years, was at Brown for a couple of years, was an American for 3, Old Dominion for 3, and most recently is an NBA scout. And of course, you'll see both on my shirt and in his background, the host of the Unmasked Docuseries, which, as a fellow person who is doing some podcasting and having the ability to sit down and interview some people, is probably, in my opinion, the top thing going right now. And that's not blowing smoke. It's just a real life look at what's going on in the college industry, what it takes to be a college coach, lifting the curtain, as they say, so to speak. So, I mean, if you haven't yet, please do tune in to what he's doing. You can find it on his YouTube channel. Just go in and look for Unmasked Docuseries. LB, I'm super happy, super fortunate to have you join me today. Thank you. Welcome. And really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Hey, appreciate you, Menelik, for having me on and even asking. I know I've checked out the show probably the last 5, 6, maybe even close to 10 episodes now. And I know that everyone has been on. You've done a great job, a wonderful job with them. And I enjoy, just learning. Every chance you get, you're always trying to grow or learn in this business, whether you're on the coaching side or whether you are now, doing scouting or even on the administrative side. So it's always a chance, to grow. And I think what you've done with Run It Back is awesome. And I think, a ton of people must watch. This is a must watch for everyone who's an avid basketball fan.
I appreciate you saying that. But today the focus is you, sir. So we want to get unmasked with Mr. Unmasked himself, pull up the curtain and talk about what it is you do at the NBA level and the information gathering process and how you organize everything. So I think the first place I'd like to start is how is your college background? And, I mean, like I said, various stops and really successful at many different places. How has that background led you to be successful in what you're doing currently? And what are the ties? Like, what are you bringing from recruiting? What are you bringing from scouting? What are you bringing from skill development? How does that all tie into what you're doing currently?
Well, I mean, Menelik, coaching at all different levels, Division I basketball and high school basketball has helped me kind of identify, what a professional basketball player should be or look like. And the game has evolved, so it's changed over the years, but having a chance to coach at different levels, you talked about the Patriot League and Ivy League and also coaching mid-major college basketball. And then just being a part of watching teams, from afar, and watching a ton of NBA games, G League games, as also as international games. You kind of tend to figure out like what it's all about. And the game has evolved over the years since I've been in coaching, 20 plus years. So when you're out watching guys, it's a bit different. And like I said, it's always changing. But like seeing guys like Jeremy Lin, who was at Harvard when I was in the Ivy League, or CJ McCollum, who was at Lehigh, Mike Muscala, who was at Bucknell. Also, when I was in the Colonial, having 7 guys in 4 years to actually either be in the NBA or they're in the G League. So when you're all at different various levels, you can actually see what guys are, or like just when you first actually evaluate them from a scouting standpoint, like when you're getting ready to watch them, getting ready to play them, you can kind of identify what an NBA player is by just watching it and looking at them as well. And then like you always recruit, and I always say I was an evaluator first, recruiter second.
Right.
Because if you have to be able to evaluate good players in order to recruit them. Like you just can't say anyone can go and recruit guys. Well, the question is, are they good enough for your program? So I think being an evaluator first, recruiter second, tremendously. That helped me in along the way of knowing what a good player, a very good player is, and so when I say that, like you always want to get, especially at the NBA level, and it involves a lot more than just is he an NBA guy, but is he a G League guy? Oh, is he a two-way guy that can be in both? Is he a Exhibit 10? Is he a summer league guy? Is he a draft and stash? So it's so many other variables than just is he an NBA guy? It's those things along the way. And then another thing is 70% of my job is intel. Like I have to know as much information as possible when I'm evaluating these players, because it's an investment. I mean, it's a huge investment, and you have to make sure that you're getting everything right about the kid that you're planning to draft in the NBA.
Love it. So I got a couple questions that stem from what you just said. First, can you talk a little bit initially when you make the move from college to the pro level about the evaluation process and understanding how they're going to fit in at the next level? And I think that this is applicable to any coach that moves from one level to the next, because I think one of the things a lot of the time that I find coaches become self-conscious about is, hey, I was a pretty good high school coach, but I don't know how this player would fit at the college level. Or I was a pretty good college coach, but I don't know how this player will fit at the pro level, et cetera, all the way up type deal. So the first time you're moving in, I mean, obviously there's a bit of trust, but talk a bit about the process in your mind, what you went through to sort of make sure that what you're putting forth in your notes is accurate and will stand at the next level.
Well, I'm gonna say what happened eventually was I was thrown in the fire early. Menelik, in July last summer. I went out to summer league for about
Right.
10 days in Vegas, and my entire job was to evaluate non-first round draft picks, because everyone isn't guaranteed a contract, and so like those guys are trying to make a roster. A lot of times, guys who were, non first round draft picks, and I'm gonna throw that out, or whether he was a second round pick or they just a summer league pickup for just for the summer, but that was my job, and so I had to get it right then, like making sure I evaluated the right players, and so those were guys that a lot of them were coming from college, or they were 2 years removed or 3 years removed playing summer league. So I knew from that point that I kind of adjusted real quick to the pro game, because I kind of hit a lot of these guys I had seen, like coaching against them or just watching them on TV. So I already had a sense of what some of these guys were like. Like I said, a lot of them were in my conference, a lot of them were in my region. So I was able to identify a lot of those guys from former scout reports I had. So I kind of had information on those guys. So that adjustment was kind of easy. And then from there, it was, going to the camps, like during the summer, CP3 elite camp where the college point guards were so now I got to identify. If I'm watching CP3, Chris Paul working with these guys during the summer, teaching them how they should be, things of the pro game, what they should be familiar with. Like I got a pretty good idea of what a NBA point guard should look like. Or Steph Curry. I went out to California to his select camp. Again, seeing college basketball players, seeing some of the high-level high school players, that was a plus. Going out to Colorado Springs, USA Basketball, that's another thing. Top guys in the country. now you're identifying those players. Like, and you seeing what those guys are working with. NBA Players Association camp, I didn't get a chance to, but you're getting to work with some of the best of the best. The NBA Players Association are working with those guys, showing them the ropes a little bit. So, and so that kind of helped a little bit of the adjustment, because now when it came time for me to go watch college practices in September and October, before I got out on the road in November, I was already kind of ahead of the game, because I had evaluated almost every level and seen what I know what a team would like. And that was a plus.
So I got two things in there. One, I want to ask you a little bit about the intel gathering and how it ties into what you're saying. But Coach Cabral Huff from Voorhees College, who I know is going to tear it up while he's there next season, sir, has a question for you. He asked in the chat, does the phrase "he's a pro" bother you, especially off of the beginning comments that you made?
Yes, it does. And Huff and I, we talk about this all the time. I actually was on his show. I was on his show, Love of the Game podcast, I want to say a few months ago, and that same question came up. Yes, it does bother me, because, I mean, every kid is not a pro. Like, I think it's a big difference. You know, like when you say pro, I can look at a kid and say, man, that kid got a chance to be a pro. So when I say pro, that could be, he could be in Europe, he could be in the G League, he could be like, there's different things of being a pro. But when you said he's an NBA guy, like, that's a little different. And I think a lot of people, the first thing they want to do is label a guy as a pro, and they always assume, or they always thinking like he's an NBA guy. It is very tough to make the NBA. I don't think a lot of guys understand that. A lot of times there's a ton of gifted guys that think they can play. Physically, they can play in the NBA. But a lot of the game, man, a lot of people don't understand from the neck up that actually separates a lot of players in the NBA. And that's whether you're young coming in or not. Like, that separates a lot of guys when they're coming into the NBA, just from the neck up. So yeah, Coach Huff, it bothers me a lot, because everyone thinks they are a scout, or they understand what the NBA entails, and him more than anyone. Like, Coach Huff has NBA players. He's coached NBA players in his high school program, so he knows more than anything what an NBA player looks like. And that term, man, is so overused in today's society.
Fair enough. So I suppose this would tie into intel gathering a little bit. Obviously, somebody who's got 20 years in the game and has been around and been at some mid majors, high majors type deal, has a really good base for connections in order to be able to gather intel. But as you're stepping into this new role, I mean, are you shy approaching new people? How do you gather intel? How much intel is coming from your former sources versus new sources? I mean, you're talking about the process of intel, and you said it's like 70% of your job. Where are you looking that you're willing to share?
I mean, most of the intel is going to come from college coaches who, like, a lot of those guys are friends in the business. I was in the coaching business for 16 years. So a lot of those guys I know, former assistant coaches. A lot of times you're not going to the head coach, because the head coach is always going to tell you all the great things. I mean, that's their job. They're trying to sell their player as much as possible. So the assistant coaches are the ones who day-to-day know the grind, the academic advisor, the strength and conditioning coach, the manager, the guy who's like, going in the gym with him, rebounding for him to get shots up, the girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, like the teacher, the principal. Like, those are all people that you're going to reach out to and gather information from. Just because, those people, a lot of times they're going to be more truthful a lot of times. And I'm not saying the head coach is not, but they're going to probably tell you things that, especially when it's just you one-on-one talking, they're going to tell you some things that can be helpful. And sometimes they don't even know it's hurtful to a kid. So, so you're always, and a lot of times I'm always listening. So having friends in this business, in the coaching ranks, or even in the high school ranks, because you're going back to the high school coach, you're going back to the AAU coach, so I use all the resources that I can, from being a college coach to being a hoop group director, Knowing a ton of people across the country. So people always talk about my phone and how it's like, having more than 2,500 contacts. So I'm accessible to a lot of people. It's not that I can approach anyone, but I also listen when I'm around people as well.
Yeah, I would definitely comment on that from a personal level. I mean, some of the gentlemen you speak to, I'm like, wow, that guy is blah 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 blah, and you treat me the same way that you treat them with the same respect. So I mean, it's unbelievable to me. Let's move into a little bit of how you approach which kids to look at, which teams to look at, etc. So I mean, like the Division 1 basketball world in itself is huge. So what's your attack plan? How do you get set up for the season? How do you know where you want to go? Are you making all kinds of lists? How do you balance your schedule for which games you need to watch? All of that.
Well, we actually meet 3 times a year. Usually, September, October before the season starts, January mid-season, and then into May right before kind of April, May. I mean May and right before the draft, and you kind of like you're formulating lists early, and you formulate those lists because and kind of who is or who's gonna possibly leave. So you, potentially, who's going to be a pro prospect. That part is kind of easy. You've seen a ton of these kids, and I said it earlier, since they were in high school, from the NBA Players Association camp to, going to see like Chris Paul Elite Camp or USA Basketball, Steph Curry, Nike Skills Academy. So you're always seeing those top guys, Jordan Brand, All-Star Game, McDonald's All-American Game. So you're always seeing those guys a lot of the times. And then when you get a kid that comes in as a freshman and they're rookie of the year in their league, or they could be freshman of the year, could be player of the year in their league, they kind of automatically go on the list. So you already know like who's potential, and you're looking at that list of like who is all league, like so all rookie a lot of times. So you're looking at that list early, and you kind of know when a kid is going into a sophomore year, you can almost identify the one and dones. I mean, that's not a hard task. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
but you kind of like I said, you already know who are you going into the year. Just like you have a huge list. It's kind of broken up, and it's done by. And so when you're going out and you're evaluating these guys, it's done by regions a lot of times. Like you're like, this is your region, so you're going to go most of these games. But once you come out in November, when they're starting to play, you could be anywhere across the country just because it's so many tournaments and there's not enough people to cover. So, but that's what ends up happening a lot of times. Those lists are formulated back in September. Who are we going to see? Who do you think prospect? We got to evaluate. Then you come back in January, you kind of decide like, okay, was this kid good enough? What do you think? What are you hearing? Is he going to possibly stay in school? Is he going to come out? So that's why all the intel comes into play. Like you're always gathering information.
Love it. So let's do this first. We got Ryan Price with a question for you. What does the average workday look like for an NBA scout? Which is awesome, Ryan. You're a little bit ahead of me. Like you're getting into exactly what my next question was going to be too. Is like, how many games are you watching? What are you doing when multiple games are on TV at the same time? What are you seeing in person versus on TV? And what does your travel schedule look like? All that stuff. So good job, Ryan. You got me there.
Hello, good morning to you. Oh, good afternoon, Coach Price. So yeah, like it's interesting you say that. So like when the season starts and pre-pandemic, we'll talk about pre-pandemic versus pandemic. Pre-pandemic, it was I was out probably and sent you the schedule, and I was out probably 80 times last year from November until March. I think the last tournament I attended was the Colonial CAA. I was actually scheduled to go out to Vegas to one last final, the Pac-12 tournament, but it was like 80 times I was out last year. And so whenever I'm in, my day begins with I'm writing or doing my scouting report, making sure I submit it into the database. And so that means you're spending 3-4 hours. Those are long reports. It depends on how many players you're watching. 3-4 hours doing that. And then you're always watching some type of game. Like before you go out to your next game, I might be watching a game that I didn't get to catch the night before, or I might be watching a G League game because I need to see, or an NBA game, because I need to see what has changed in the game. And I don't think a lot of people, the average NBA fan, don't realize like how much the game changes as the year goes on in the NBA. The guys do different things as the year go on, and they don't realize it. They just watch an NBA game for entertainment. But there are things that go on. So I'm always doing things with my craft, like I said, watching games, evaluating the NBA games, evaluating those players, what the positions that you're looking for, and you're always looking at G League games just to see, who could be a move up, who's not a move up, things of that nature. So my day is a long day, especially then when I get to a game. I'm always there an hour and a half to 2 hours before the game. And so that's because you get to the game and you making sure that you're talking with assistant coaches or the strength and conditioning coach or whoever you need to get intel before that game. And then also you're setting up, your scouting assignment, like how many guys you have, and you're looking at the numbers. We don't look at aggregate numbers. We look at more the advanced statistics and things like that. They tell you about, true shooting percentage and things of that nature. More, like I said, on the analytical side. So you're always looking at those numbers just to see if things match up. So now it's a long day. It's more than what people think. But you do have more time to spend with your family than you do when you're a college basketball coach. That's a grind. I know Coach Price has been at a long time, and like I did it for 16 years, but I can wake up now like Coach Price, Coach Huff, those guys. I can wake up in the morning, and if I want to decide to, go grab something to eat, maybe look at some stuff or write a report, go back and lay down and take a nap, I can do that now. But I still have a busy day. But I get a chance to have a little bit more freedom as well.
Yeah, I've actually heard you mention it a couple times that like your family life is better, and that's one that I struggle with a lot as a college coach because obviously I have a small daughter that I'm raising predominantly on.
Yeah, mentally, my mom is up here. She can tell you. I've probably seen her more in the last year and a half than I seen her in the last 20 years. So that tells you a lot when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? So
and a big shout out to Miss Wallow for joining us. Thank you. Good afternoon to you. Miss Smalls has a question in the chat for us. Actually, she says, "How do you keep all of your notes and thoughts on players organized? Is there a checklist that you have, and where do you store the information that you refer back to later?" Which ties in perfectly, I think, to what was going to be our next topic here. So I feel like I'm doing a good job when people in the audience have similar type questions to what I had. But sorry, Albie, go ahead.
No, so I invested into a new computer, like and I store all my information. It's only for that. Like I keep my notes, even when I go to the games, that's what I have. And I started off writing things down, and then I said, you know what, I gotta make a decision here, like just making a small investment into, small computer. You can use your iPad or anything like that, and then all the information is stored, so it's a lot more organized and detailed instead of just having paper all over the place. You can't remember, everything is dated, and so that's how I became probably a little bit more organized, just because I can do it game by game. It's always saved. I can go back and look at my notes, what happened on this date versus this team. So yeah, like that was probably the smartest thing I did, was making an investment to just use that computer for only scouting. And so that's what happened.
And then where I was going with that next was just basically once your reports are formed, how often are you revisiting those notes and changing or adding to them? So like I would assume you would use whatever video service like a Synergy or a Huddle or whatever it is, and you'd go back and take a look at stuff. How often when you watch something live are you like, hey, I got to come back and check this timestamp? Or how often do you see a player play for the second or third time and be like, wow, I really didn't notice that about him previously, etc.?
Well, I actually go back quite often because there are things during the game that could be a distraction here and there. Like you're watching the game, you're evaluating the game, so you go back and you can make a mental note. Like I go check out this at this certain time, like you said. So I go back to Synergy. I actually watch it, and just in case I did miss something, when I evaluate a kid, I go back a couple of times. Like for instance, one of the guys we're going to go over today, Xavier Tillman, was a kid that I was like, oh, I don't know if he is or isn't good enough. And you watch some things he do on the floor. I watched him a year ago, and like I had to go back to the NCAA tournament the year before, and I started watching games. I'm like, wow, he did this, he did that, and like, so yeah, I'm quite often going back, watching the guy multiple times, just because like there may be things that he did well in this game that he didn't do well in another game, or I want to see the improvement from the beginning of the year to possibly the end of the year, and see if there was an improvement. So yeah, I kind of go back and I become like I'm a synergy junkie when I'm watching watching college games.
So it kind of brings me to my next point, in that from the coaching standpoint, level doesn't really matter, in my opinion. I mean, certain people have varied opinions about it, but coaching is coaching ultimately at the end of the day. You have different challenges with different players and different scenarios with different schools, etc. But level does matter a little bit if your ultimate goal is to make the NBA, so to speak. And that being said, talk a little bit about hidden gems. How often are you referred to a Division II player or a junior college player or an international player by somebody that you trust? And then when you're struck with that situation, how do you evaluate? Not being 100% familiar with whatever that talent level might be, what the competition is. I mean, is that person only standing out?
Trying to cheat. They are cheating. I don't think we're trying to cheat. We're just trying to.
Because they're playing somebody who is not of a Division I level. Like, can you talk about that process a little bit and discovering hidden gems and offering an evaluation on them?
Well, I'm gonna say this. I don't think, to me personally, and I think there's a lot of people in this profession, they don't. It's not that many. It's too many resources today, and eyes on individuals where it's almost hard to kind of miss out on individuals. It may have been a kid that came into college rated like lower because a lot of people didn't get to see him, but he improved tremendously through development, or he grew a couple of inches from when he signed with that college to when he came into college. So
Right.
A lot of times there are things or there's factors that play into why a kid didn't get seen. But like when you talk about Division II, because a lot of times you look at their stats, what jumps out. So like you want to see if there's a kid averaging 25, 26 a game, you might go and look at that number, or you might see a big kid who's averaging 16 and 15 at the Division II level, NAI level, or even junior college level. Like, so those things jump out, and like people, like you said, they mention the name, or they say, "Yo, this is a kid you want to check out." Then you got a chance. Synergy, man, so much now. You can go and watch that kid and evaluate and determine. And a lot of times it doesn't matter about level. It's like, okay, do they do the things that can translate to the next level? So it doesn't matter about the competition. Is what do they do, or what can they do that'll translate to the next level? Are they, if they are big, can they rebound? Can they rebound outside the area? Do they run the floor well? Do they have great hands? Are they able to set screens, roll hard? Are they able to, slip a screen? Are they able to make a decision out of that ball screen? If you're a point guard, are you physical? Can you defend? Can you, so many different things that you can watch and see if they translate. I don't know if it's a hidden gem. I just think like, or people miss out on kids. I just think like there's so many factors that play into why a kid wasn't seen as early as some other people. And that's why when people like, oh, a kid like Ja Morant, like people missed him, or Damon Lillard, or, like CJ McCollum, who was 5'9", 5'10" when he graduated from high school, but he grew to 6'3" by the time he got to college. Same thing with Mike Muscala. He was 6'6" going into his senior year. He grew to 6'11" by the time he got to campus. So those are factors that play into it. I don't think it was a hidden gem, but if you are good enough, they'll find you, because the resources, there's so many resources out here. Like in the past, like you could miss some guys, but today it's kind of hard to do that.
So this is kind of a question that comes to mind from that a lot. Like, will you only go and look at somebody like that if somebody you trust or a source that you trust refers them to you, or will you sometimes get curious and excuse me, and go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and go find some players on your own sometimes?
I think it both. I'm gonna say both. Like, I'm gonna trust someone that I know I've had. Like they're like, say a guy's, like Marcus Kirkland is on here, and he's like, man, I got a kid you need to go watch, whether it's his team or someone else. I'm telling you, he's pretty good. Keep your eye on him. Like, I'm gonna trust him. You know what I'm saying? So because he's, like he has a reputation of being a good coach or a great guy with evaluating talent. Or if but I look at stats and I see some numbers. And a lot of times the stats, like I said, the aggregate stats don't jump out on me. It's the analytical stats that jump out on me. Like, what's his steal rate? What's his block rate? Oh, what's his assist rate? Like those things that jump out. Like, how is that going to translate? He's a 38, 39, 40% 3-point shooter, but he's shooting 80%, 85, 86% from the line. Can he get better? Because the one thing about that translates shooting in the NBA is you have enough time to shoot to get better as a shooter. That's why you see guys who come into the league who like, man, he was a poor shooter in college. I don't understand. Like, is he going to be better? They have enough time to get shots up all the time where they can become a better shooter. So that's almost the easiest thing you can teach at that level.
Awesome. I got two quick ones before we talk about some actual evaluation, and then we'll get into some film from there. I think that would be the natural segue. So the first one, and I think this is kind of a superficial question, but I'm always curious about this. What, if any, value do scouting services provide you? I mean, are they helpful in the least in terms of at least they get the kids' names out there and provide a little bit of like film or something? Or is it ultimately at the end of the day, like, I don't need that at all? I can find most of my information on my own.
I'm going to say none. I value my own opinion. But it is good that so I may look at different rankings, like after I watched a kid, just to see what their thoughts are and see if I'm kind of similar to them. But I trust my own opinion. And a lot of times I think that's where people go wrong, whether it's in the NBA side or the college side. Like, they always want to lean on someone else and not trust their own opinion. And then, and we talked about earlier, and then I trust the intel of the people that I've had a relationship with over the years. Like, they're gonna tell me, like, yo, LB, like, this kid kind of know, when no one is watching, he's not getting in the gym as much, or he's a gym rat. So like those things are the ones that help you more than anything, more so than a scouting service. Because their job is to try to sell, sell and make money off of it. But my job is I need to evaluate these individuals and then get information from people who have inside information on these kids. So yeah, I don't value it as much. I kind of like, I look at it just to see some of the people that I'm like, okay, he knows what he's talking about. Let's see if it's comparable. So
Hey, well, excuse me. My point of view. Like I've told you, there's a fundamental disconnect sometimes. So that being said, like I think as a college coach, there's still some value in terms of maybe I can hear a name that I haven't heard before, but translating to your level, I wanted to know if at all. Coach Huff had put in the chat, how much has changed from your time as a college scout to what you see now as an NBA scout? And, just if you don't mind, get into that a little bit, and then we'll move into my last one before the evaluation questions.
I don't know how much I think the one thing that has changed is guys are trying to put kids in position. A lot of the kids, because as Huff, as you know, like this transfer rate is serious. And so I think skill development has probably changed more than anything. So guys, because all they want to hear now is, can you get me ready to be a professional basketball player? So I think the skill development piece has changed more than anything because everyone is catering to the kids now. Like most of the guys aren't catering to just their system anymore. It's like the kids are pigeonholed into their system because if a kid feels like they're pigeonholed, they're out of there. They're going to transfer. They're going to look for the best next situation that's going to help them, put them in position to being a professional basketball player. And it doesn't matter. Like I think sometimes kids realize at a certain point, if I'm an NBA basketball player, if I'm going to be a guy that goes to Europe, I know everybody wants to live the dream, and all these guys, and Huff and I, I'm going to throw this into it as well. A lot of these agents are telling these kids, and this is the biggest thing that's changed, because of the two-way contracts and, the Exhibit 10s, they're trying to tell these kids as much as possible, you should go out and leave, put your name in, we'll get you a two-way deal, or we'll get you an Exhibit 10, and then in a year or so, you're going to be up and you're going to be playing in the NBA. So that may be the biggest change of anything, even past the development.
Right.
Agents are in these kids' ear, telling them how good they are, how quick they can get to the NBA. If they don't get drafted, you can become a two-way guy and then go in the G League, and like you're going to do well in the G League, and you'll be in the NBA in a year. And I think that's so wrong to tell a kid that, because the NBA is hard to make, but the G League is not easy either. So I think a lot of people have a misconception about the G League. There's a lot of hungry guys in the G League, and they're down there to try to get an NBA contract as well. So they're not coming in letting, Joe Blow take their job and try to get to the NBA. That's not going to happen.
So you talk a lot about intel gathering and the value. This question, as I mentioned when I sent to you, is sort of for the youngsters that, might tune in and watch this at a later time. Some of the guys that play for me ask this kind of stuff and say that it doesn't matter in their opinion. What if any value do the things outside of basketball do to dictate your opinion or your information gathering on a kid? And what I mean by that specifically is like, the superficial example a lot of the time is if a kid has bad social media, we won't recruit him or something like that. Well, what value do things like this have to you when you're information gathering?
Well, I'm going to say this again. Like I stated earlier, intel is so important in this job. You need to have as much information as possible on players. It's an investment, and you want to make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's. That's what you want to do. Exploring social media, talking to academic advisors, strength and conditioning coaches, old principal teachers, etc. It's huge when you gather information. So, yes, are we looking at social media? Yes, we are. Because you don't, like I said, it's an investment. You don't want a kid becoming something down the road. You draft them. The warning signs were there, and you refuse to, heed to them. So, yeah, social media is huge. Hearing the information from people, don't like some things, don't let sometimes your friendship cloud your judgment with that guy. Like, you want to make sure you know everything about that kid as possible, just so that you know that you're making the right decision when it's time to select or not select a kid.
LB, would you say that this statement is fair? If I'm an owner and one of my potential assets of a player could ultimately end up being paid $40 or $50 million a year, would you say that it's fair that from my perspective, I want to know as much about that person as possible before I go and spend that kind of money on them.
Very fair. Like, I mean, yeah, that's the owner wants to, like, because the owner, like, a lot of times the front office is the ones who are going to make the decision. Like, that's just what it is. The front office is going to make the decision, but they have to be able to, the owner needs to know about these things. Like, I mean, how much is he watching games? I don't know, but he wants to know more about that person when he's spending his money. So yeah, it's very fair to say, like, you want to get it correct. I mean, guys lose their jobs behind making the wrong decision. So, and that's not just always a basketball decision, but also, it's their livelihood. That's what I'm gonna say. So, it's not always coaches taking the fall. It's a lot of front office people that take the fall as well.
For sure. So let's get into some actual evaluation. Coach Cam Daly put in the chat. He asked if there's anything that you can talk about specifically with what the Magic look for when they're doing evaluation for kids. And I think this actually ties into some of the questions I sent you about how do you evaluate, what are you looking for athletically, what is their true position, or is there actually positionless basketball? Does the prototype change from team to team? All those intricate details, whatever you can share with us about the specific needs of your club versus general needs overall from someone doing your position.
Yeah, it's all about fit. Like, what are you looking for in that particular situation? And, like, you want high character guys, but also you talk about, what's best fit for their team. You want the best player, but then it's also what's the best fit. And a lot of times it's like you talk about position. Like, I mean, if you got a chance, if, like we talk about, Anthony Edwards was, the number 1 pick this year in the draft. He was probably the best, or has the best potential. I'll use him since we're talking about, Georgia guy with Coach Cam Daly over there. But we'll talk about him. He's probably the best fit for the Timberwolves because of his, being a shooting guard, a big guard, I would say. And they already had a franchise point guard there. And then they also have a franchise big. So that was almost best player, best fit. That worked for them. He mentioned, like, Magic looking for a position, like whether it was a point guard or a power forward, looking for that best person that would be for the organization going forward. And you also want to get someone that you see as the potential starter down the road, especially when you have a guy like Markelle Fultz already there, and they had invested, like they were going to invest in him. So, like, were you going to bring in a rookie that was going to start from day one? Probably no, but it was a guy that could potentially be a backup. And it's just like recruiting. You never recruit backups. If you're recruiting backups in, college basketball, that's going to get you fired. If you are same thing with scouting. Like, you want to get a guy that can be a potential starter. What if this guy goes down? There's an injury, things of that nature. So, same thing. Like, you want to get a guy that can be a potential guy that can start for you going forward.
So what are the things that you specifically are looking at in your evaluation? I mean, as general or as specific as you want, but how do they tie in? What are you specifically looking at? You talked a little bit about, not aggregate numbers and things like area around rebounding or block rates, that kind of stuff. But when you go and see a guy live, what are you looking at? What's the whole picture there?
Like I said, it goes back to position. So, like, is he an athletic? How athletic is he? How is his, you look at guys' wingspan. Like, you don't want a 6'3" point guard with a 6'3" wingspan. Like, it's just not. You want a +3, or more, wingspan. Like, how does he move laterally? How does he, so when you look into those things, like, can he run your offense? Can he get guys in spots when you take positions? Is a wing guy, how well of a defender? Is he a two-way guy? Can he defend multiple positions? Because, as you know, in the NBA, everybody talks about positionless basketball. Most guys are switching on everything. So you're looking at like, like you might see a guy who's a center in college, but could he be a four in the NBA? Is he gonna be able to, or is he gonna be a small ball five? So it's always things that you're looking at, besides just the numbers that'll translate to being an NBA player. And like I said, the knowledge of the game, of course, the physical attributes. Is he able to make shots? Is he a primary facilitator versus a secondary facilitator? Is he a catch and shoot guy? Because as you know, like people don't realize, like, I don't care where you go, it's usually two guys taking the most shots on the team.
Right.
Are you able to fit in? Are you able to fit in and be a guy that when things aren't going well, can you handle it? Because you may have a couple of DMPs. So like, are you able to sit there and like not pout and sulk because you're not playing? You got a DMP, coach's decision. Or are you ready to play when your number is called? So those are the things like that's important from not just the physical side, just besides the physical side, but those things are important when it comes time to who you're going to select as well. That's why you want to go to the game. You want to see the player. How does he interact with the coach? How does he interact with his teammates? Is he coming off the floor and when he's pissed off, is he throwing a towel at the water boy, the manager, because he's mad? And does he do it several times? What's his attitude like? Is he cheering on his teammates? Like I said, you may not play. Like that's like I'll use Quinn Cook, prime example. One of the best. He's gonna have a job in the NBA for a long time because he's one, LeBron James and Anthony Davis love him. He does everything that he needs to do to stay with an organization. So those are the little things that keep you in the NBA. So because the thing is not just making it to the NBA, is can you stay in the NBA? That's the biggest thing.
For sure. Which is crazy when you think about how hard it is just to make it. And I know you know a little bit about my background, but like the what do you evaluate, what do you look at in evaluation is a bit of a loaded question. Like I used to sell real estate, and a lot of time people would come to me and be like, how's the market? And it's like, well, what market? Like, are you talking condos on King Street? Are we talking about homes in Pickering? Like these are all varied things. There's not one uniform, superficial line that we could talk about in evaluation. Obviously, when specific needs happen or arise, you're looking for specific things to help fit that role. Just before I get to film, which is the next segue, first, LB, you asked me for an hour. We got about 10 to 15 minutes left. Are you good on time if we go a little bit?
I got time today if it's okay with Ryan Price. That's all I'm going to say. If it's okay with Ryan, I got time today.
Love it. And Coach Doobie, I'm sorry if I massacre your last name. Coach John Dubisson asked in the chat, how has the movement of fifth-year guys to high major schools influenced draft board evaluations? As in detail or as superficially as you want to answer that, please let us know.
You know what? Like that's been the biggest thing. On the college side, I used to look at that was a recruiting tool. Like when fifth guys were leaving, you'd be like, you know what? Like guys aren't getting drafted as much when you're going from or sticking in the NBA. Like that number is a low percentage, whether people believe it or not. Because if you're a fifth year guy, as you know, the league is a young league. They don't know. So if you're a fifth year guy in college, you're probably 23, if not 24 a lot of times. So that's an older guy. So when you're looking at NBA, you're looking at in terms of what is that kid going to look like in 1 year? What is he going to look like in 3 years? What is he going to look like in 5 years? So if you're looking at a 23, 24-year-old man, you're saying, wow, he's probably going to reach his potential, what he should be in 3 or 4 years. All right. So that's why you all tend to want to draft the younger guy, because in the first 3 or 4 years, he's allowed probably some mistakes that older guy's not. And then you got that second contract coming along. So yeah, like the 50 is a low percentage. I don't know if it helps as much. If you look at it and I know these guys who are on here are college coaches, they use that all the time when it comes to, transferring and going somewhere, trying to transfer up, is not as great. Like I think, and I say this all the time, if you're in a place and you are a productive, because the NBA is all about production, Why not? If you're averaging 24, 25, and Coach Cam and I talked about it with a former guy, he was averaging huge numbers at a low to mid-major school. He decided to go to a high major school and not play as much. The NBA are not taking guys who averaging 8 points, 10 points a game at a high major school anymore. They want production. They want the guys who are averaging 20 plus a game, who have a chance to put the ball in the basket, who can score on a nightly basis. Like, that's what they want. They don't want the guy who's at Duke or Carolina. A lot of times when you look at it, those numbers are going down to average 7 8 points a game. Now, you want a guy from, Hofstra University who averaged 27 a game, or Chris Clemens, who was at Houston, who was at Campbell, who was like 27, 28 points a game, because they are unknown. And it's like, what happens when I put them in this system? How much better can they get? So it's almost the unknown a lot of times is better than the known.
For sure. If nobody has any other questions, I'm going to jump into a bit of film here. Give me one second.
I've been up here a lot. Like I said, for about 10 weeks. It's probably been the most questions on the Zoom. It's been a lot. I know that. I appreciate all of them. I appreciate all of them.
Yeah, what you do is very interesting to all of us for sure. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up my video panel. And are you good? Can you see this size, or do you need me to expand this?
It's good. It's good.
So for anybody who's tuning in, what I'll do here in terms of the format is LB hasn't seen a lot of these clips yet. However, he was at this game and suggested it to me as something to take a look at. This is the Maryland versus Michigan State game from February 29th of this year, 2020. And this is the second time they played. And there are 3 players who ended up making the NBA, and potentially maybe there'll be some more from these teams as well. But Xavier Tillman, Cassius Winston, and Jalen Smith were all drafted for this past draft, and they're all in this game competing against each other. And sort of what I'll do format-wise is I've pulled a bunch of clips on all 3 of them, so I'll let, say, like Jalen Smith's clips play all the way to the end. I'll describe it for anybody who's listening in via like podcast app or something later on, so you get an idea of what we're looking at. And then I'll stop at the end of Jalen Smith and just sort of ask LB to take the helm and let us know what he was thinking, what notes he might have made, just what was going on in his mind in the minute. So we're starting here. It's a clip with some of these clips are a little bit long, so I'll just only really describe the primary action here. But we end up with Jalen Smith in the post here. So we throw it in, and I think it might be Tillman guarding him here.
Yep.
Yeah. Got some pivoting and a missed shot, and then we're on to the next clip here. And I'll just, like I said, I'll just go through all of them until we get to the end of Smith. Some are positive, some are negative, so you guys got to bear with it a little bit here. So this is just a screen and pop clip where he shows that he can step back and hit the 3. This one is, I believe, Smith versus Tillman in the post. And similar sort of action with that back pivot, getting to the center of the floor, misses the shot at the front, but gets the foul call. And we got another one with Smith in the post here. They really like bringing him in with that cross screen action. Front of the rim, draws the foul again. And sorry, guys, I know it's a lot all at once, but thought it was probably the best format there. So that's Smith blocking Tillman at the rim after he makes a strong move. And what do we got here? Smith putting it on the deck later on in the game, getting to the floor after a little pass back in the center near the point. We got some more of Smith versus Tillman on the block here. goes to his drop step, puts it off the glass, misses the shot. In the Tillman clips, I actually have the run out after that. We got one more of Smith hitting another three here. So there's a tight curl on a 60 series. Some people call it a twirl. He steps back and ends up hitting that three. And we're into Smith dropping it back in off of a baseline out of bounds for an assist. And, you know, without making it too much of a highlight reel, I suppose, we also have some defensive clips here where Smith ends up getting switched onto Winston on the perimeter. And you get a look at his ability to guard the ball, you know, 20 feet away, if he's able to switch onto a faster guard or not. Keeps him in front, forces him to take a tough shot that he misses at the end of the shot clock. And then we got, I think, two more in the post against Tillman. So that one was actually on Kithier, and then I think this one is the one that's on Tillman here. All right, so a lot of clips, LB.
Fine.
What do you see? What do you think? What do your notes look like? All of that stuff.
So, and I must, and you say Jalen Smith, I'm gonna say Sticks. I've been knowing him for a long time.
There you go.
So
I was reading something that they changed that to logs now or something because he's put on a little bit of size.
So watching Sticks from his freshman year to actually played against him his freshman year to his sophomore year, and he played more four then. And that's what he is. He's a four-man. It was just that Maryland needed him to play more inside, but he's actually a really good face-up guy. As you saw, like in the pick and pop situation, a lot of times he was able to knock down jump shots. He's able to put it on the floor. That's his position. That's going to be, you know, suited for the NBA more than anything. So a lot of people was looking at him as more of a face-up four. The biggest question was, could he guard multiple positions on the switch? And because he was stiff from his freshman year, he was real stiff. To his sophomore year, he became a little bit more flexible. And then watching him from end of March to before the draft, through the workouts and things like that, he became a lot more flexible. So the jump from him being a mid to late, or I'm gonna say mid draft pick from 15 to 20, that flexibility and things like that, and showing that he could actually switch out and guard people multiple positions, kind of jumped him to number 10, you know, and I know Phoenix fell in love with him because of that, because if he like I said, when I looked at him, I thought, could he be another Jeremy Grant, who, like, when Jeremy first came into the league, and Jeremy is way more athletic than Sticks. He probably has a lot more lateral movement, but could Sticks end up being that guy down the road just because of his, if he is advancing the way he did from a, you know, lateral quickness standpoint. Yeah, he was physically gifted up top. Well, he worked on his body to get stronger. So that's why in the post he doesn't do as well. Like Tillman could knock him off the block. He didn't finish a ton around it. He did finish well around the basket against other guys. The Big Ten is very physical, but his ability, because his lower body wasn't as strong compared to his upper body, he kind of, like, physically in the Big Ten, you can see him wear him down a little bit from a strength standpoint.
Right.
But like I said, he's, you know, ability to shoot the ball, stretch the floor, ability to put the ball on the floor, ability to run the floor and rebound outside his area. A lot of his skill set translate to the NBA, today's NBA, and with him becoming more flexible, I just thought like his upside was really good. And so was I shocked that Phoenix took him at 10? Yes. But Phoenix has drafted differently the last couple of years, and it's kind of worked out for them.
Interesting. So we'll get into Tillman in 1 second. Appreciate you sharing your notes. I just want to mention that of the three, obviously Sticks, Jalen Smith went the highest at the 10 spot. So next we move to Xavier Tillman, who went in the second round, 35th pick overall to Sacramento. And again, same format. I'll go through some clips, and forgive me if it's a bit long going through all of the clips at once, but I'll do my best to just sort of narrate as what they're doing for anybody who's listening later on. So, I mean, we start with a Tillman block. And I think that was actually against Winston getting in the paint there. No, sorry, it was, forgive me, it was against Ayala. So that was Tillman's missed three, not Smith's great pass on that one there. And we got Tillman ending up posting on Smith here. So it's a little bit of back and forth because we had a bunch of Smith picks Smith videos, excuse me, where he's posting the other way. So see a little bit of revenge just to see what happens here. He goes middle, and I think he drops steps back, puts it off the glass for a nice soft finish. We've got Tillman at the rim here, and I think this is off of a pick and roll action, if I remember correctly. Yeah, little lob over the top shows that he can vertically space. Doesn't end up smashing it, but, soft touch in and around. This is just him remaining calm in the post with some action going on. He wasn't able to develop something for himself, but he puts it back out, makes a good pass. Oh, not there. Remains calm, finds the open guy. And they end up with a drive and a decent look on the other side of the floor. We got a Tillman dunk at the rim here. I believe this is also off of pick and roll action, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we got a late pocket, and he ends up smashing it. And another rolling type action. Shows pretty good hands on this catch, I think. It's after a little bobble to get it back. Ends up being a little bit later in the shot clock. But he ends up catching this a little bit farther away from the rim and still shows his ability to finish. So early pocket, gets to the rim off of one dribble, finishes to his right. And then this, like I said, we showed this clip in the other direction, but after the missed shot by Smith, he ends up running the floor, beating Smith down the floor, finishing left hand in transition. It's great end-to-end clip. We got Tillman putting it on the deck here from the point area and showing his ability to finish. Where are we? Here we go. So it's a late clip here. Here we go. It's actually his ability to make the pass and find the open guy after drawing two. And he gets out rebounded at the rim, but comes away with a nice vertical block without the foul. So they start back in the other direction. And then one more on the short roll. And this is actually a Cassius Winston assist. Just shows a little float game over the top. So again, LB, lots of clips. Sorry to everybody for getting all the way through, but give us an idea of, what were you thinking? What are you writing down? What's the assessment on the way through there?
Number one, the first thing about him, he is a tremendous screener. I don't think people understand that if guys play at Michigan State, they're probably the best screening team in the country. Those guys know how to play. Because of today's NBA, he's almost a perfect small ball five. And when he's in ball screen situations, especially that short pocket pass, he's able to catch it He's able to drive it. He's able to make a decision, passing the ball. And I think that's what jumped out at me about him. Just his ability to be able to read defenses coming off like the pocket. Like I said, him receiving the pocket pass, whether he can knock down the 15 to 17 footer consistently. He can shoot the 3 ball as well. And so when I watched him early in the year, and then I couldn't wait to see this game at the end of the year, but he was the reason I went back and watched film from the year before, and I was just blown away with his ability to screen, his ability to know the game from the neck up. A lot of guys from Michigan State, like the Draymond Greens, those guys do well in the NBA, just because, it's a tough 4-year, 3 or 4 year stretch with him, but he's gonna have you from being able to think the game and know the game, and that's what jumped out on him. He also can rebound the ball. He's physical. He saw him in a couple of clips where he ran the floor extremely well. And he does all the little things that can help you win games. And that's
right.
What's getting a pick like him in the second round. That's a value pick that he can be a part of your program and help you win, be a part of the rotation that helps teams win a lot of games.
Love it. When you talk about being a good screener, this is something that's passionate to my heart. I actually won a screening award at a few basketball camps when I was a younger guy. What are things that you look for, like the timing of getting in and out, or the angles, or like just understanding, where his man is playing? Like, are you assessing all of those things? What goes in your report for that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm assessing all those things. Like, are you able to flip the screen when you get a chance? Can you read it if they're icing a ball screen? What do you do? Are you able to, pop back, reverse the ball, handle the basketball, and then go set another screen? Like those type of things. Like you said, like I said, changing the angle or flipping it, or however you want to say it, or when you're short rolling, are you able to make a decision out of that? Because a lot of times the big who is rolling a lot of times can't make that decision. Whether to shoot it, pass it, put it on the floor. But you got to be, the timing, like you have to have a feel almost for that. You can't be robotic. And I just think he has a tremendous feel for that when he's on the floor. And guys love great screeners, trust me. And a lot of times, as we know, the guy who sets the screen a lot of times is going to end up getting the ball. So
for sure. And then the last of our gentlemen, excuse me, as I set it up, and obviously we got a special guest on my lap here. My daughter is joining us, LB. So we'll have a smile and say hello on them, please.
Hi.
There we go.
hello.
So we got Mr. Cassius Winston, obviously the shortest of these potential prospects. And, a lot of this is actually just finding the right guy. And we don't want to be too married to the result of the play because not everybody finishes the pass, etc. But here's one just off the dribble. I think maybe I should have shortened some of these. I apologize, gentlemen. But we get late shot clock here. He's got the ball in his hand and gets the switch that he wants. Goes to the rim, draws the foul against Smith. So this one is one that I don't think looks great on him. It's him just defending on a blob, and he gets beat off of the slip. This is an attack, relocate, attack again, find the open man type deal. So they're in a horn set, and he uses both sides. A little flip pass, attacks the paint again, and finds the open man. Doesn't end up burying the shot, but I thought it's a great clip of just an understanding of what he needs to do. This is just off of a little help side pin down. We call this quick action up here for a jump shot, free throw line area, nail area. Then we've got a bust out in transition, and I think this is a wide open transition 3, if I'm not mistaken, where he steps into it. He front rims it and, is asking for the foul afterwards. This one here is, I think, an example of the handle needing to be a little bit tighter in some instances, where he loses it a little bit later in the shot clock. There's some post action. They kick it back out, if I remember correctly, and he attacks off of this handoff and just loses it off of his foot. And then this is the end of the first half. There's 2 seconds left. He hits a 65-foot shot. So, I mean, you got to throw that in, obviously, to take a look at it. Good job, sir. Here's another transition three, just to paint a picture that, you know, the earlier one maybe was fouled, and this is something that he can do where he bottoms it out. And then this is a late shot clock one. So I forget this clip, excuse me. I think it's some America action. So flex screen, pin down screen. He ends up with the ball. He's got about 10 seconds left. He attacks off of the top pick and roll, gets the switch that he wants, gives him a little hesitation pull by, throws the floater, is unable to complete it. But I thought it was a good look. Thank you. Thought it was a good look. My daughter found my other unmasked shirt. There you go, LB. It was a good look of him being able to get into the paint and create late in shot clock, even though he doesn't end up finishing. And then here we've got a relocation three. So there's an attack, and there's they punch the ball and they draw a double. He relocates. It was Smith who was switched onto him, can't find him, ends up hitting it, and one gets pushed into the bench. And then we got one later on in the game, last 3 minutes of the game. They get an offensive rebound. They kick it back out. I think this ends up with a top pick and roll and just showing him snaking the pick and roll, attacking the big, getting downhill. I think ultimately doesn't end up finishing, but shows his ability to get into the paint. Sorry, he kicks it to the other side for the open look on the three after he draws two. So, I mean, a lot of just making the right decision. Obviously, you need to do as a shorter guard, but what did you see? What were you thinking? And, for those of you who are watching, do keep in mind that LB was actually at this game and taking notes live. So just give me an idea of what you were thinking.
Well, I'm going to say this. I actually, didn't get to see him as much through his college career. And one of my first places I went to last year after Summer League, I went out to Nike Skills Academy with the college, the top college guys in the country. And that was the day I actually said, wow, I realized how good of a basketball player he was, playing against all the top guys in the country. And then, I had to see him during the year. I saw him a couple of times. Saw him at the Champions Classic. I saw him at I want to say he might have been out in Hawaii. But it was he watching him, he's like a maestro on the floor. He controls your offense. He can run your offense. He's actually one of the best pick and roll guys last year situations. He was tremendous in that. He was a senior, basically a 4-year starter. What was underrated about him, a lot of people didn't realize, he was a 40-plus three-point shooter for his career at Michigan State. And a lot of people didn't realize how well he shot the ball. But he was tremendous. In that game, he doesn't allow you to lose games. You can be down. He just knows when to take over. He tried to do probably too much early in that game. He had some turnovers. But his ability, his competitiveness and his will to win is tremendous. And because of his, I looked at him and said, man, he reminds me, he's a poor man's Kyle Lowry. And I think a lot of people forgot, Kyle Lowry, when he first came in the league, he was a backup in Memphis before he went to Houston. So a lot of people don't realize, the Kyle Lowry that they see now wasn't the Kyle Lowry when he first came in the league. So, and I say poor man's. I know he could be a career backup in the league, 8 to 10 years, have a great career, just because he has it. He has the, like I said, the drive, the competitiveness. He's great in pick and roll. He's a leader on the floor. He's gonna help you win a lot of games as a backup. That isn't always, he doesn't need to go get 20 and 8 assists, but he's gonna have guys in the right spot. You heard the Clippers talk about this year. They didn't have a point guard that could do those type of things, and people don't even realize. His brother committed suicide in that year, so he dealt with a lot of stuff in that year, and he still was first team All-American last year.
Right.
And but no, he was tremendous. Just watching him, like I said, calling him maestro because of his ability to just pick defenses apart, whether he scored or he just got guys open shots. It was tremendous to watch him, and I just thought what he did translate. Able to knock down shots on catch and shoots is huge in the NBA. He doesn't have to always be the primary facilitator, but can he knock down open shots? That's a key.
So the interesting thing to me, and I suppose I'll end towards this note, but like, as I said, the shortest player of the three that ended up going to the next level. And I think a lot of people forget this all the time. Like if you're somebody who's like 6'2" and under type deal, just like you said, you have to have that competitive edge because just numbers wise, you're just competing against so many more people who can do the same job that you can do. So understanding where your role is, never being asked to have to turn it on, like having that drive it's just such a key factor that obviously he demonstrates. The one specific question I wanted to ask, just because I showed a couple clips in there where, you said he tried to do too much early, or there were a couple clips in there where, he misses the shot, that he's 2 feet in the paint. He should probably make that one. How important is each individual thing versus the overall picture to you when evaluating someone like that? Because the reason I ask this is I get a lot of players, I come across a lot of players who think they miss that one shot and it's over. It's the end of the world. Whereas, if they're making the right plays consistently over time, probably statistically they average out that, they're doing what they should be doing, et cetera. So I'm just wondering, obviously as a scout, as somebody who's privy to this information, what value do you have on that one play versus overall the whole picture type deal?
Yeah, my thing is how does he move on from the next play? Like,
Right.
is he going to pout because he missed that shot, and then is he going to blow an assignment on the defensive end because of that? And then the next play down, he's just going to jack a shot because he felt like he should have made that shot. Like those things, like I'm moving on to the next play as a scout. Like, is he going to let that one play affect him?
Right.
And so, no, I don't. So that's how, like, it plays a part into it, but I'm not just thinking about that one play. It's the next series of plays that I'm interested in, because we all know, like, you tend to you miss a shot or you get a foul and now you start pouting, or you decide to give up a straight line drive because you're worried about the missed shot. Like, those are the things I look at. And that kid, probably tougher than anybody. I don't think people realize, like, if you ever watched him when he was a freshman and how much, you know, Coach Izzo got on him, like he like literally ripped him his freshman year, like destroyed him. And nothing that was said to him never bothered him. And so when you watch him as a senior, they still they could go back and forth with each other because Tom Izzo knows that kid has done everything he's asked. He earned Tom Izzo's respect, and he just trusted him with everything. And so like when that happens, it's, like, hey, that kid took everything I had. Same thing happened with Draymond. Like, it's just certain guys, push their buttons. You either can deal with it or not. And I don't think anything affects that kid going forward.
Love it. I'm going to share one quick thing that you sent me. This is just a quick idea of what your calendar looks like and how you're out there every day and how you have to plan it, map it out, make details as to which games are important, obviously. And then briefly, you sent me an idea of what an idea of your notes would look like. And you can see the binder in there and how everything's all organized together. So you get an idea of the game schedules, you get an idea of what goes into everything, you get an idea of how LB actually plans out who he's going to take a look at, et I think that's fantastic. If anybody has any questions just before we wrap up, now would be a great time to jump on. But if not, I want to end by saying, first off, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to anybody who's watching this on Christmas when they get it. A special thanks to all of the coaches who have taken a little bit of time to jump on, ask questions, share, and obviously like a huge thank you to LB for taking time out of his day, during the holidays to spend some time with me. And, a sincere thanks as a person one-to-one outside of the podcasting type world. Sir, I appreciate the way that you sort of brought me along the past couple of months. This pandemic has been really tough up here in Canada. Like, as we've mentioned, we're really locked down. We're not playing basketball as some of you coaches are. And this has helped me stay involved, stay sharp, feel like I still belong to the basketball community. So I really appreciate you sharing your network with me and bringing me along and allowing me to capitalize from that. So sincerely appreciate that. I will put the link to the Unmasked series in this post when it goes up. So if you've enjoyed today, which I'm sure you have, if you're even remotely interested in basketball, please go check out Lamar Barrett's series Unmasked. It is unbelievable in my opinion. And to all the coaches, like I said, who have jumped in and shared their time just to listen, really appreciate you guys as well too. I think it's fantastic that you could take some time out to do so. LB, thanks so much. I'm going to end it there.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. It was actually great. I loved it. And you were easy. Like it's. I'm glad that you actually came along. And I said, hey, you want to meet some people and become a part of my group. And I thank you for you coming along, because you got a lot of valuable information that you can share with everyone else. And so you're a valuable individual. And I think a lot of the guys along in my group, or in the group that we're involved in, appreciate you. So no, I thank you as well. Happy holidays to you.
Awesome stuff. All right, gentlemen, this will be out on Friday the 25th. Happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas if you celebrate that. Loved it. And I'll see you guys next week, as I have I believe it is Doug Caputo joining us, who is a Division III coach in Pennsylvania. So appreciate everybody, and I'll see you next week on Run It Back. Thank you.